not contributed to.
No, it is not. It is circular migration. It is circular. Rather than having a migration, a permanent migration from rural to urban, now you are leading into a circular migration, that people are just going round and round. And that is what I termed, from a purely labor market point of view, that's the kind of instability that I'm talking about. Well, on this issue, you will find that as our productivity on agriculture side increase, and that is what people have been talking about, the second green revolution, the real thrust, real push to rural to urban migration will come with the second green revolution. We don't know how, if you begin to compare the urban figures, the largest increase that has taken place in India was in 1971-81, both as a result of the green revolution of 68-67, also as a result of the drought that affected the 60s. So both the drought effect as well as revolution effect is reflected in the 1971-81 period. When you see the second green revolution, which might cover oil seeds and the pulses and many other products, the commercial crop, you will really see a much bigger push. We are at 31% urban. 60% are labor forces in agriculture producing 200 million tons of food grains. It's extremely low productivity. As the productivity in the rural areas go up, you will see that rush where programs such as NREGA will not help. Unless the NREGA is really strengthened in the many folds, NREGA will not help that kind of a migration. Yes.
Shalin Singhal, faculty at the Department of Policy Studies. So I just was curious to understand how do you see the role of corporate governance in contributing to making cities more sustainable, particularly the small and medium towns, the private sector's governance?
Corporate governance?
Yes,
or the local governance?
Corporate governance.
I don't know whether corporates are getting interested in smaller towns, and I have really no idea at all. Are they? Are the corporates getting interested in the small and medium towns now? Are they giving up the large ones, or what?
Yeah, so the question is, what is the way forward? I mean, the small and medium towns are equally financially crunched. So in order to, the only sector that is left to support the public sector will be the corporate sector. And what is the way forward?
Corporates would come in if they were going to get more money out of them. After corporates would function, if what they invest would yield a rate of return which is higher than what they would earn in larger cities. Unless your assumption is that the corporates will get a much higher return in small towns, the interest that we have seen of the corporates getting interested in smaller towns and so on and so forth are in the health sector and the education sector, but not in economic activity. In social activities, yes, the corporates have an interest, but I have not seen their corporate interest into economic pursuits. I don't know. I'm sure that there would be examples, but I'm not aware of that.
There's another, just to seek clarification. You mentioned that in 76 there was this agreement that still the public sector will take the lead in terms of finances for the city. Right. So I'm curious to know, because 70s was a time when there was a major energy crisis, and globally the consensus was to roll back the welfare state. Then how did the consensus emerge that still to continue with the public sector money at that same time?
I think that was, I'm glad that you remind, the 1973 oil crisis. In fact, that really reinforced the international commitment with respect to the public sector, that if only the public sector is not around, there would be complete chaos in the global markets. It was only the public sector that had the kind of arguments that were put in was essentially in favor of a stronger public sector in order to deal with the 1973 kind of a crisis. I was in the Planning Commission at that time in 73, and his brother was there. He was just leaving. Mr. Guhan was special assistant to Mr. C. Subramaniam in 71. When the crisis came, the issue, first of all, what is it that Planning Commission itself should care itself to? No one knew. No one could really follow what implications this sudden oil price rise would have. But everyone who had a car, and there were very few people who had cars, they started pooling them together, 3 or 4 people going every day. But that didn't last. It lasted for about a month or so, it dropped. The view was that people have the capacity to absorb these shocks. And the country showed that although it was a big shock, we returned to the same way of living as we were in the pre-oil rise period. Very concrete example. It didn't last. 3 or 4 people will pool one car. Today is your turn, the day after is my turn, and so on and so forth. But within a month, the system collapsed. It won't work. They all started bringing their own cars or scooters or motorbikes or whatever they had. And that led our advisor, who was Mr. K.S. Gill, to say that, or it was the same story with sugar. When the price of rice, he said, look, there are capacities, absorptive capacities are much higher than what we normally think. So he said, allow that to continue. Just don't worry. Nothing will happen. We can't prepare ourselves because these are external shocks. You can't prepare the contingency plans like we do in India, or we used to do in India, for drought. If you are anticipated drought, you have a shelf of projects, introduce these projects as when the drought takes. But that was not with external shocks. It didn't happen that way.
Is it true that urban stress will be relieved in case we have planning for the cities like Chandigarh at the first stage?
No. My answer is plain no. Chandigarh, look at one city. It is not even a million city after 55 years. Not even the 1 million city. How many cities we will? We add every year 9 to 10 million population to our urban people, which means that we have to build 9 or 10, 1 million cities every year to accommodate the annual rush. I'm saying Chandigarh, which was done in 50s, has not reached 1 million.
Once we know that this is the increase which is going to come next year,
right,
or in another 10 years, don't you think we require to plan accordingly, or do we do that like?
No. I'm taking the point that we will require new cities. And on the Delhi-Mumbai corridor, if you ask Amitabh Kant, he's saying he's building 24 new cities. And they would be smart cities. Not like the cities that we live in. Smart cities are being planned on the Delhi-Mumbai corridor, and there are 24 of them. What we were arguing with the Delhi-Mumbai corridor secretariat was that, fine, we agree. Even assuming that they would absorb 1 million population each, that's 24 million. That's it. In a decade's time, and this is a decade plan, in a decade, we add, as we did, 90 million people. So even if at the cost, which is going to be prohibitively high, we built 24 cities, and I think he has very strong plans to build 24 cities. How much would it absorb? There's no escape but to renew our existing settlements. It's sad, but the age of living in single-storied bungalows is over. We used to live pretty close, and it was a very traditional 2.5-floor house. This is what the Delhi Municipal Corporation used to allow, 2.5 floor. I think our house is the only one which is 2.5 floor. All other houses are 4 floors because the FAR has gone up. And maybe they're right. At such expensive land prices, there's no justification of having a low density. At these land prices, there's no justification of having low density. FAR has to go up. compact cities probably are you may not like it, but that probably is the answer. Not sprawls, not sprawling cities, but compact cities. More efficient, more energy efficient, more secure. So the compact cities probably are the ones that I think TERI would also advocate that. From a climate change point of view, that may be more efficient. I don't know.
So there is a project of Lavasa in Maharashtra, which is developing a complete city on the wastelands in Maharashtra. So, but most of the times they are standing in courts rather than on construction sites. So don't you think these projects like private players should be encouraged, because they are also like developing an urban city?
Have you been to Lavasa?
Sorry?
Have you been to Lavasa? Have you?
No, sir.
No, I've been. So no, it's a lovely place. But it's a dead place. It's a lovely place, but it's a dead place. There are no people right now. There are only buildings. They're lovely buildings, beautiful buildings, but there are no people. These are resort places. These are the second homes of NRIs, very nice construction, very high standards of services, lovely roads, restaurants, but there are no people. We had gone to, for a very different reason, we have gone to see whether there has been a violation of the Environmental Act. 3-member committee to simply report whether there has been the violation of the Act. I'm sure that you would know that Lavasa is under dispute, and the license, no construction has been permitted over the past 2 years. There have been some violations, and as many of our friends there were saying that the tiger paths, for example, which were there, or the animal paths, they have been completely uprooted as a result of this. There have been excess cutting compared to what the Maharashtra government had allowed, or what the Act says. But there are many other ways of sort of neutralizing the adverse, the environmental damage that has already been done, rather than demolishing the buildings which are already there. But there are no people. I think it will take God knows how many decades for it to become lively, a city. A city by definition is high density. If you do not have 400 persons per square kilometer, you are not even an urban settlement. That is what the census defines. You know the definition of urban? The Census of India defines an urban if you have a twofold set of conditions. One is that if a settlement has 5,000 people, a density of 400 persons per square kilometer, and 75% of non-agricultural workforce, male workforce in non-agricultural occupations, then that settlement is an urban. Or it is urban if the state government decides to give it a municipal status. These two sets of conditions must be met. And the definition, our definition, that it's a demographic thing, you 5,000 people. It's a economic and urban, cities, is an urban thing. It is an economic function. That is how the workforce, 75% of male workforce in non-agricultural occupation. And then it is a social thing. And social really is the density part. The more people closer to each other, then it becomes an urban. So a threefold criteria, very carefully worked out, has been in operation right from 1961. 5,000 people, 400 persons per square kilometer, and 75% of this, or the state government decides to give it a municipal status. Our definition is much more strict compared to other countries, much more strict. So Lavasa, I don't know when would Lavasa have 400 persons per square kilometer, I don't know. But right now it is a dead city. It's a lovely city, but dead city.
Sir, you said Chandigarh is able to meet only 10% of its demand, whereas we have cities like Gurgaon, where it earns most of the state's revenue, majority of state's revenue. Sir, where the problem lies, is it governance or is it land laws, or there are some other factors like geographical location or some factors like this? So where the problem lies actually?
First of all, the facts. What I said was 10%, the municipal revenues in Chandigarh are 10% of what they actually require in order to maintain services at the present level. 90% really comes to them as subsidy. That's the Chandigarh story. Gurgaon is a completely different story altogether. It's a private settlement. It's not covered by any local body. Gurgaon Municipal Corporation has nothing to do with it. No one pays any taxes there. Do you know that Gurgaon, I'm not talking Gurgaon, I'm talking of DLF, you know, these, where all these ITs and so on and so forth live. Not the Gurgaon town. This is outside the Gurgaon town, and then no laws apply to that part. There is neither, it is outside of the municipality. So no one pays property taxation, no one pays user charge. They pay to the DLF, but not to the Gurgaon municipality. So it's a private settlement. We have been arguing that, look, now it is grown up, it should be brought within Gurgaon, and I think Gurgaon itself, Haryana government itself wants to bring it. But the pressure of the corporates who are there is such that it will be kept out of the tax reach of the Gurgaon Municipal Corporation. If they were to pay property taxes, it would be a huge amount. They could construct another DLF with simply the tax rates that the corporates will have to give at the current rates of taxation in Gurgaon. They are outside. Sure.
Yeah, we recently had this demand for property tax from Gurgaon. I think is that, I too have heard that there is no property tax.
That's right.
But we had this demand from...
Yeah, demand is being made now. You are right.
Yeah, the other
Absolutely.
thing is, can you give any example of sustainable city, at least in India or maybe elsewhere? So, any which is closer to sustainable city.
All of us pay taxes. But the taxes that we pay, whether they are the market rates, you know, if the land is selling for 9 lakh rupees per square yard in Vasant Vihar, and if a landlord pays 20,000 rupees as property tax per year, I leave it to you to guess whether the tax that he's paying is the right amount or the low in relation to the land price. The Gurgaon example that you're asking is exactly the same as Bangalore. All these Infosys and Wipros are outside of the corporation limits. And the complaint of the state government and the Bangalore Municipal Corporation is that they take advantage of the services of the city, but they don't pay us anything by way of taxes. This is the corporate world.
Yeah, my other question was, any example of a sustainably managed city?
They say, well, Vancouver is a sustainable city. Vancouver is cited as one example of a highly pleasant, eco-friendly, environmental-friendly, and sustainable in all these senses that we're talking about, where the services are available, where the poverty rates are low, and so on and so forth. Vancouver is cited as an example.
Any city in India that comes closer to?
Vinod, any city. Vinod doesn't pay taxes. He doesn't pay any property tax. But any city that you consider I mean, I belong to Delhi, and therefore I love Delhi.
So I belong to Jamshedpur, and it is governed not by the government, but by JISCO. It's completely privatized by Tata. The quality of life is very unique there, be in terms of roadways, water supply, sewage, solid waste management. So it's very sustainable. It's a very good model, and maybe the only city in India who's running by a private sector. There have been issues to get in a municipal corporation, but with the concessions of the citizens staying there over the years, nobody wants a municipal corporation in that city.
I know that. I know there's
So,
a running battle.
don't you think this kind of a model should be also applied to other middle towns in India, especially, who are actually educational, economic hubs, or will turn out for the future? So what is your view on this?
You know, we have been fighting with, for 7 years now. Jamshedpur is one of the cities which is entitled to NURM funds. But we can't give it to Jamshedpur for the simple reason that it is no urban local body. It is no participation. It is no civil society which is represented on the governing. It's completely private. Now, whether it's a larger political choice. Whether one opts for an efficient city like Jamshedpur is, or whether one really opts for a city where the citizens also have a say in how it needs to be governed. It's a political choice. Jamshedpur, we have been fighting that it is no urban local body. It's no municipality. The case is in the court. We don't know whether we would win or not, but we do think that there should be some kind of participation of people in the governance of the city. Maybe it would become, city may not be as efficient after that, or I don't know. I don't know. Well, thank you all very much. Thank you, Madam.